Welcome to Polaris-Live, conversations on the U.S.-China relationship and its global impact as seen through the eyes of experts from around the world. This user-supported channel is brought to you live in conjunction with the Foreign Policy Association of New York. You can also listen to these programs as podcasts on your favorite platform. On 20th January, with the inauguration of Donald Trump as president, the United States announced that the world's biggest economy and most powerful country was getting off the globally interconnected, rules-based system of which it was a founder and an integral part just the day before. American national interests are now going to be paramount in dealing with the world, and America alone would decide and enforce its ideas of what was good for America, with financial and trade sanctions and military power if necessary. But how is the rest of the world going to react to this declaration of independence? How will Trump 2 change impact the fast rising countries of the global South, or the role of the increasingly influential groupings such as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, of which Cambodia is a member? And more importantly, what will be the reaction from China, the world's other superpower and the only country that has the economic and military might to give pause to America's rules? This is your host, Sarwar Kashmiri. And my guest today is Ambassador Pou Sothirak, a Cambodian foreign policy expert and diplomat. Ambassador Pou is a distinguished senior advisor to the Cambodian Center for Regional Studies, CCRS, previously Secretary of State at the Cambodian Foreign Affairs Ministry. He remains an advisor to the Cambodian government. He has extensive experience in international relations and served as Cambodian ambassador to Japan. He was Minister of Industry, Mines, and Energy of Cambodia from 1993 to 1998. We've asked Ambassador Pou to help us understand the U.S. election and Mr. Trump's presidency from the perspective of the countries of Southeast Asia, especially China and Cambodia. He joins us from Phnom Penh. Welcome to Polaris-Live, Mr. Ambassador. So nice to have you with us so early in the morning, your time.
Thank you very much, Professor Sava, for having me in your program. I look very much forward to engaging with you.
Well, this is it's a distinct pleasure, and I know our viewers are going to be very interested. So the Khmer Times, Cambodia's popular daily newspaper, said after the American elections that a second-term presidency places Cambodia in a strategic yet precarious position, necessitating careful navigation of U.S.-China relations and regional diplomacy. What was the newspaper really saying, Mr. Ambassador?
This is, for a country like Cambodia, a very important development. The taking office of the new president, President Donald Trump, of which his trademark policy, particularly foreign affairs policy, have, in my view, raised a lot of concern in this part of the world, particularly the predictability of American foreign policy. American has been, in my view, gone through a realignment of the thinking of their role as a big brother of the world, if you may allow me to say it. It appeared that the American people who voted for Trump want America to look after only America and not the world anymore. And I think this is probably the biggest wake-up call for Southeast Asian nation, but also for my country, Cambodia, and the wider region, including European country as well, and the American ally. So I think what you see in my view, is the American is shifting its thinking. What's good for America was supposed to be good for the world, but at the moment, what's good for the world may not be what American think is good for themselves. So this shifting, this realignment of thinking, President Trump win the election based on this thinking. I have to say, this raised a lot of concern. So this, to me, is a very fundamental shift. We have to wait and see whether this shift is only like seasonal, like, American is only 4 years. The American institution is very strong. You have a very good parliament. You have check and balance. You have the good judiciary system. You have good the Pentagon and good, the CIA, the FBI, everything is good. Let's hope there's a check and balance. And then the American does not really give up their perceptions about what's good for the world is good for America.
Well, Cambodia's prime minister is a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy, West Point, if I'm correct, and also New York University. You are a graduate, and perhaps, if I'm not mistaken, also a dual citizen. I'd imagine there are a lot of good feelings between Cambodia and America, latent good feelings that will carry us through some blips on the horizon. Would you agree with that? Agree with me, Sothirak?
Yeah, completely. American and Cambodia bilateral relation, it has been more than 70 years already. American people know Cambodia, and Cambodia know America. I'm a graduate from the U.S. I have a dual citizen, and the current prime minister is also a graduate from the U.S. So our academic background, we pretty much exposed to what the American value is all about: democracy, freedoms, and merit-based systems. All these are very important. And I have to say, the Cambodian people also cherish very much the American soft power. The American soft power in education, for example, in healthcare, in good governance, in the value of the principle behind democracy, the freedom in a political space. They all like it, and I don't think only Cambodia like this. The rest of the world like it. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm a bit concerned now. There's a retraction. The American seems to walk away under Mr. Trump, not the American that I used to know, but under Mr. Trump. These are no longer the forefront in the American foreign policy. American now is preoccupied with making America great again, looking quite inward rather than outward. So, but for Cambodia, we have very good feeling about America, and I think the Cambodian people recognize the American value, which is, to me, it's a global value. There's no such thing as democracy American style or democracy Cambodian style, but it's just democracy. The fundamental of democracy, which is power deriving from the people, is everybody like it. So I think for the Cambodian people, I think I can say with fair amount of confidence that we like the American soft power. We like American food, hamburger, hot dogs. We like the American. I mean, the spirit that strike me the most is the American volunteerism.
Yes.
These days there's still the associations of healthcare, American Cambodian healthcare. I have some friend who member they Cambodian American. They visit Cambodia every year and they come and to offer free healthcare. It's kind of like a NGO, what you call the volunteer.
Yes.
Boy Scout kind of a volunteer. This is very uniquely American, American NGO, civil society. The idea behind civil society working along with the government to improve livelihood is another glaring example of good American,
Yes.
as useful big brother of the world, so
What a
we have very
pleasure.
good feeling, and I'm sure that the Prime Minister also treasure this kind of value.
I'm sure. How nice it is to hear you say that. It makes my heart glad. Now, listen, Cambodia's prime minister, sorry, we're just learning in America that Thailand has allowed the repatriation of dozens of Uyghur citizens back to China against strenuous objections from the US president and the US State Department that accuses China of mistreating, even torturing its Muslim citizens. Thailand is a long-time American treaty ally, and this action is being interpreted in America as we speak as a rebuff to Mr. Trump's new foreign policy and in favor of China from your part of the world. I wonder if you agree.
Um, well, on this topic, unfortunately, the thinking that for example, in the case of Thailand, you mentioned that this is a rebuff for Mr. Trump's new foreign policy. I like to dissect that a little bit. I think when Thailand decided to hand over the Uyghur back to China, it is pretty much a relationship between Thailand and China per se, because as you know, China co-interests things like separatist groups and terrorisms or whatnot, and Uyghur human rights records and so on. To
Right.
China, they consider this as a national security. And Thailand being a good friend to China, when China requests, it's very difficult for Thailand to say no, in my view. But I don't think Thailand did that to rebuff the American foreign policy, being means Trump or any other policy. I like to mention this in connection with Cambodia. When we're small, Thailand is small, Cambodia is small, facing with China. So this is a dealing between Thailand and China per se. Not so much it's driven by Thailand desire to counter or to rebuff the American policy. But I ask that the if you want to discuss this issue, you have to look at how the relationship between Thailand and China evolved in that prism. The prisms of China seeing the Uyghur as a threat to their national security, and they asked Thailand to hand over. So we cannot interview the Uyghur to try to out whether they the victim or the culprit. It's very difficult. So
Yes.
To make sense. But what I'm saying is that we need to separate these issues. It's not that, in my view, the doing of Thailand to reject or to rebuff the American foreign policy toward China.
And I suppose in many ways, Mr. Ambassador, it's the same kind of principle that all countries follow, is that their own national interest is predominant in how they treat relations as they come up, isn't it?
Yes, precisely. Yeah, there's that also a good point that you make. It's the interest between China and the state involved, in this case Thailand, or you can even say Cambodia.
Right.
We benefit from the relationship much more than if we were to say, well, we want to rebuff the US on such and such issue. I don't think it's a good thinking, or the thinking that is holistic. It's more holistic to think that this is the interest between the two states, in maintaining their bilateral relation in their own specific way.
Sure. Seems to be a very mature way of looking at it. Now, you have often said that you'd like for the United States to pay particular attention to ASEAN, the 10-member association, if I might add, the Southeast Asian states. Why is that? And what specifically would you like the U.S. to try and do?
Very good questions. In my view, as China influence continue to expand, to rise, China rise, Washington would have to hold on to its strategic ambition to maintain influence in Southeast Asia at the same time. This is how big power go about looking at or expanding their influences. So by ensuring that favorable relationship between ASEAN and the US, I think the US has been committed to engage with the regional bloc by enhancing public diplomacy. US have increased its effort to promote existing military, economic, and educational program and establish a comprehensive security partnership with key countries like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, and Vietnam. Those are more sort of a upper tier among ASEAN states, and also America have been working to promote ASEAN centrality in the face of intensifying U.S.-China rivalry, as you know. So the U.S. intend to, in my view, to upgrade, intensify the U.S.-ASEAN relation, including the, as I mentioned to you, they focus on their new U.S.-ASEAN Comprehensive Strategic Partnership, which was ASEAN granted to the U.S. in 2022. And the focus was on digital issues, cyber, healthcare, environment, climate, energy, transportation, women empowerment, and also they expand the existing dialogue on foreign affairs, economic, and defense. More recently, defense also included. So for Trump 2.0, the relationship between the U.S. And ASEAN, in my view, look quite uncertain and maybe a bit more worrisome, perhaps. It's a better term, because although we are at early stage, but indication, there are warning signs that President Trump may not find ASEAN as palatable, or ASEAN as strategic as we want to see American as strategic. The reverse is not so true with the American, particularly President Trump. When Cambodia was a chair, ASEAN were very happy that Mr. Biden visit Cambodia.
Yes.
But when Indonesia was chair, Vice President went, and when Laos was chair, he didn't go either. So, and now, Malaysia is a chair. I think there's a lot of talk whether Mr. Trump will visit the summit. You mentioned there's a meeting, ASEAN Foreign Affairs meeting in June, but the summit later in October, November, later this year. We're not sure whether President Trump will go. My reading is that the U.S. does not feel that ASEAN is a top priority at the moment for Trump, making America great again by tariff is one thing with how America deal with China, but more worrisome about being a good brother to the world, as I mentioned early on, is becoming questionable. The Americans want to be only big brother to themselves. They don't want to extend beyond that. I think this is worrisome. And what's the effects of it is that then you will see the rule-based order the American put in place after World War II, the so-called liberal international system will decline. The multilateralism will decline. Americans walk away from international organizations, climate treaties, Paris COP 21, 22, and world trade. All these things is not. This indicated that the American is no longer the American we used to know, and this is to me is very troublesome. So for me, I think going forward, it's better if the American would go back or maintain favorable relationship, particularly in making ASEAN more vibrant. ASEAN centrality need to be enshrined. I think the previous administration have shown great interest in supporting, for example, the ASEAN outlook in the Indo-Pacific, which is a small version of the the US-led Indo-Pacific strategy. We have an outlook. That could be something that the American can come in and make it even more vibrant, more relevant to this part of the world. I'm hoping that the American will continue to enhance ASEAN centrality. ASEAN have many dialogue partners. Many of them are very strategic partner, including the EU and of course China. And so the American also play an important role to securing this region as a peaceful, stable, prosperous region. This is part of the Indo-Pacific strategy.
Sure.
So-called free and open Indo-Pacific concept that the American now roll out, becoming a strategy, So I'm hoping that these will not fade away. I don't think it will fade away because it's in the long-term interest of the U.S. But what I worry about is the way through which Trump will implement this policy may deviate. In other words, to me, President Trump is a bit short-sighted. He thinks that making America great again is a benefit, but I think this is a short-term benefit. But the long-term interest for American is to remain as a leader in safeguarding this region as peaceful, as prosperous, as stable amid all kind of a problem, particularly the vulnerability that is created by China rise.
Yes, and obviously it's going to be so much harder to do if one excludes ASEAN and excludes the very fast-growing, healthy countries in your part of the world. I mean, I'm reminded that ASEAN's share of global trade is almost 40%. So when you add that to China's 15 or so percent, I mean, that's half of the world's global trade. So there are very sound commercial reasons for doing that. Please allow me to take a moment to remind our viewers that Polaris-Live is commercial-free, entirely viewer-supported. We'd appreciate your signing up to our mailing list at kashmiri.com and to our YouTube channel, www.polaris-live.com. There's no cost, and it really does help us. And also, we continue to welcome your comments, both on our video and on our podcast global channels. And so now, Mr. Ambassador, I wanted to ask you that, and forgive me for asking this, but Cambodia is a big user of China's Belt and Road Initiative. And you've had a wonderful international airport that has been constructed, a naval base, where, as we speak, a Chinese Navy ship is docked, and America is very upset that China will now have additional military assets in Cambodia. Others say that's not true. Cambodia has always played a very neutral and very fair role. How do you answer this?
Yeah. First, on the Belt and Road, you may know that BRI is now 2.0. Also, there's some unintended consequences, as we all know that we talk about debt trap. We talk about when you receive Chinese assistance, you have to align your foreign policy in the same way the Chinese, although the Chinese say there's no string attached, but there's no such thing. There's no such thing as free lunch. You and I know, we old enough to know that. So there, the 1.0 BRI, they incur a lot of criticism. That trap is being won. At the end, you surrender your sovereign right to a foreign country by accepting a grand scheme, a grand project. So BRI now 2.0 I think China is become more careful. They want to see anything that come out from the 2.0 BRI will be quality development, and that is for the first time they start thinking about bottom up. They want to make sure that BRI resonate all the way to the base. This is, you see, I noticed a different than the BRI 1.0. Before was just making the government happy, but now they try to also make the local happy, which is good, but whether they can achieve that is another story. You have to assess.
I'm sorry, I need to clarify one point to make sure I understand it. It's very important. You said the 1.0 focused largely on making the government happy, and then the 2.0, they also try to make the people happy in the same country, I take it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the fundamental overseas assistance BRI is being one. The Chinese style is that they approach the state. Their biggest interlocutor, their partner to it is a state. The American is the same, but when it's implemented, the American will go to the base, USAID,
Right.
or the Japanese JICA. They will go to the community and discuss this with the community to find out what the challenge. Whereas in the Chinese case, they don't do that. They talk. They will get all their facts and figure from the government. They don't go to the base. That's the difference that I was telling to. Now they become a bit more receptive to this kind of thing, making the people feel the gratitude that they do. They need to do that. Public diplomacy in China have changed. So the 2.0 have done that in my view, but it's too early to evaluate. We need to evaluate that. You talk about the new airport. Before that, we have one very big BRI that already implement is expressway between Phnom Penh to Sihanoukville. This is a BOT, but it's a BRI project. Government of Cambodia giving concession to the Chinese company under that scheme.
Right.
So it's being built already, but you need to assess whether that have really triggered down, is the economic benefit have really triggered down to the local people or the people who live along that road or not. So you need to commission an evaluation team to do that. And I pretty much would hope that China would allow that to happen, so as to assess whether whatever President Xi Jinping said about the 2.0 is about quality, it's about the people, it's really there, Otherwise, we still have some issues, but it's beyond depth trap now. Another thing that BRI 2.0 is that it have to be bankable. It have to be, the return have to come back to them. It's a commercial base as well. It's not just politically driven per se like before. Now the project have to be bankable. In other words, the financial model have to be there will be a return to it. Otherwise, I don't think China would continue to do anything substantive about it. Now, the new airport that you mentioned is not yet in operation. My understanding, they will kickstarting in June this year.
Okay.
They're not yet ready. They're not open, but definitely this is a BRI project. And again, we need to assess. But with the current trend, I'm looking at the big picture here. Tourists is not traveling as much as many like before. Particularly Chinese themselves stop coming to Cambodia.
Wow.
They don't spend money. So I mean, if you have a new airport and if the tourists are not coming, I think we need to have some plan B or something. We need to do something to try to attract tourists to come. Neighboring country, Thailand and Vietnam have a lot of tourists. Cambodia have not yet. We have some increase. Last year there's some increase, but not yet to the level we wish if we compare ourselves to Thailand and Vietnam. So airport is very important. again, to evaluate whether the project really is benefit the economy. I would say it would be, because there's a lot of study done before that. But with the global downturn, the recession, maybe we have to be very watchful, be careful with that. With regard to Ream, I want to say a few Ream naval base. The perceptions that Cambodia have a military, Cambodia is perceived to offer a military base to China, in my view, is just as dangerous as we actually have one. At the moment, the American perceive that Cambodia have a base. Even some ASEAN member country, I don't want to name them, think that Cambodia offer a base to China. I would like to take this opportunity to mention that the Cambodian government have been very clear and open about this, that we do not offer a military base to any foreign country at all, because this is not in conformity with our constitutions. We many times over, there's a official statement from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from the head of government during that time, former Prime Minister Hun Sen, have repeatedly mentioned that this is not possible. But the perception still linger on, and so I think to chase these perceptions away, there's a lot of there need to be some concrete doing from all sides. From the American side, I would suggest humbly that unless the American have very clear evidence, concrete evidence that this is a base, please reveal it. I mean, you have eyes in the skies, you have satellite, you have all the technology there is to know whether that is a base or not. Please, you don't have to advertise, but you show it to the Cambodian government according to what you think it is a base, and try to have a word with them, whether that resonate in a way you think that we offer the base.
Makes a
to
lot
my
of sense.
knowledge, this is just a myth. It's a myth, and in fact, it become a very strategic issues between the U.S. and China. If you ask the Chinese, for example, if you go ask them now today, would you like to have a base in Cambodia? I don't know what they say, but they would probably say something like this: "Don't ask me, ask a Cambodian." Being a diplomat, I was former Cambodian ambassador to Japan. This is very diplomatic. But what China gained from there is a perceptions that they make the American feel very nervous, because as small as Cambodia, and amid the U.S.-led Indo-Pacific strategy, this strategy cannot defend or safeguarding a small country from being influenced by China. So I think the Chinese benefit from the perceptions. The American will not, in my view, this again, I'm now a free spirit, so to speak. This is my own assessment. It's not so much about Cambodia offer the base. It's for the American to tell China you cannot have a base. In my view, it's a message from the American. Tell the Chinese, say, look, you cannot. Please don't think that you can have a base there. If you have a base, my Indo-Pacific strategy failed. Because after all, you there. But whether that would take over the Chinese influence in Cambodia or not is another story. But just for the sake of a debate, the concept behind having a base or not having a base hinge on these issues. The U.S. hit the Chinese, telling the Chinese please don't ever think that you can have a base in Cambodia. And the Chinese say, look, if you want to know, just ask a Cambodian. Well, maybe they didn't say this. I say maybe if Cambodia offer them, I will take it. The Chinese say. I make it up. It's not nothing official. I'm just trying for the debate's sake. So please, and then it's not so much about so much about Cambodia. It's about China. And another thing that I wanted to add into it is that as big as America, America should know that Cambodia does not feel at ease, because everything that the American think about Cambodia is through Chinese prism, through Chinese lens. So we don't like. I mean, the government of Cambodia definitely, they are independent, they sovereign. They don't like the idea that they under the anyone control or anything. They have their own policy. And then fortunately or unfortunately, the Cambodian interest match the Chinese foreign policy. So we keep receiving many support from China, whereas other countries have not matched at any scale that the Chinese offer Cambodia. That have to be put into context. And at the moment, Cambodia still need development assistance to put up in infrastructure projects and so on and so forth. So please, base is not it's not an issue so much between US and Cambodia, but it's an issue between US telling China no, and also for the Chinese also, they benefit by sort of like nuance, having base.
You must have been a very, very elegant and successful diplomat.
Well, I'm getting old. I have some spice.
Listen, don't give me that. Well, listen, I must draw this to a close because we are a little over time. But I wanted to say really that we have run out of time. But I wanted to thank you on behalf of all our global viewers so very much for that thought-provoking conversation. And it's exactly what I want to present to our viewers from Southeast Asia. So I hope you'll come back to see us again. Thank you again. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Sava. And I really appreciate having me in your program. I wish your program a very successful one.
Thank you again. And I want to thank our viewers from around the world. Please join us again on Polaris-Live.com as we continue to explore the most consequential relationship in the world, United States and China, and its impact on the world, on which the nations of Southeast Asia are and will continue to play such an important part. So tune in again. We hope to see you soon. For now, goodbye.